Hi, welcome once again, crypto friends. We're here today with Brad from ZCash that is visiting our Ripio headquarters in Buenos Aires. How are you doing, Brad?
I'm great. Hey Juan, thanks. I'm really excited to be here.
We were talking a bit about ZCash. So the first question would be, what is ZCash?
Yeah, so I'll assume most of your users are familiar with Bitcoin, so they know what the basics of a cryptocurrency are. ZCash is also a cryptocurrency, but it has very strong guarantees to protect users' privacy, which, anybody who's really paying attention to the crypto industry, they understand that privacy is not one of its strong suits at this point.
Yeah, and what would you say are the main difference between other cryptocurrency and ZCash? For example, the main difference between Bitcoin, Ether, and ZCash.
Sure. Yeah, so Bitcoin is a distributed ledger cryptocurrency where you see things like a sender address and a recipient address and an amount. Ether is a smart contracting language that has a complete programming language built on top of it. You can make your smart contracts to do all kinds of interesting things. ZCash is at this point a pure cryptocurrency, right? It's meant to be as an exchange, right? You can use it to buy things, you can use it to hold value, but the dynamic of the value storage is a little bit different, right? Where I said with Bitcoin you have a sender address, a recipient address, and an amount. With ZCash, the public doesn't really see anything, right, on the blockchain. You know that someone sent somebody something,
yeah,
and that's all. You don't know the identity of the person who sent it, the person who received it, or the person, or how much was sent, right? And that's really important for a lot of reasons. Primarily user safety, right, but also fungibility, right? It's one of the characteristics of a strong currency has to be fungibility.
Yeah.
I can't take a 100 peso note, give it to a merchant, and have that merchant turn it down because he doesn't like the serial number on that note, right? That is really damaging to commerce. So, having fungibility, knowing that I can hand that off to a merchant and say, yeah, this is good, this is 100 pesos, right? Knowing that I can do that with my cryptocurrency, it has to be true for crypto to become like an actual medium of exchange.
Yeah.
So.
And how does the ZCash technology work on privacy protection, especially?
Sure. I think this is one of our core competencies, right? So the project was actually founded by scientists at Johns Hopkins University, MIT, and Berkeley in California, all in the States, and also at Technion University and Tel Aviv University in Israel. Some of the absolute best scientific minds in the space. And what we're doing is we're creating the cutting edge technology in modern public key cryptography. So what does that mean? That means it's a cryptographic method for people to hide their information and share information with selected parties. And we use a technique called a zero knowledge proof. And this is where it gets a little hand wavy for most people. A zero knowledge proof, what it does is it can prove to anyone the existence or the validity of something, a statement, without actually exposing what that statement is, right? That's really hard for a lot of people to wrap their heads around. But without having to trust any third party, two individuals using a zero knowledge proof, I can prove to you that something is true without actually exposing what that something is, right?
Right. And how about the ZCash Foundation? How does it work?
Yeah. So the ZCash cryptocurrency is an open source project.
Yeah.
But there are also two entities that were spun out at the launch of the actual cryptocurrency. One of them was the ZCash company, who I work for.
Yeah.
And then another is the ZCash Foundation, which is a totally separate, independent entity. Mm-hmm. And we serve two different purposes, right? So the ZCash Foundation, we like to think of their primary goal as being a steward of the protocol for a really long time,
yeah,
right? So they're meant to be very financially responsible and work on projects that really support the ecosystem as a whole, right? And have a really long-term view.
Yeah.
So, I don't work for the foundation, so it's really hard to talk about exactly what they're doing because, to be honest, I don't know sometimes.
Yeah.
But I think they are taking that very conservative, very long-term view. One of their programs is a grant program. They just finished their second round of grants about 2 months ago, where they financed about a dozen projects to work on things that would be supportive to the Zcash ecosystem, and also just to this is zero knowledge proof cryptography as a whole.
Okay, so those are the next steps for the Zcash Foundation. What are the next steps for Zcash?
Sure. So Zcash was launched in October of 2016. So we're like 26 months old. We had our first major upgrade 6 weeks ago, right? And this is probably one of the biggest breakthroughs in cryptography, at least this year, maybe this decade, right?
Yeah.
What we did is we took the strong science behind what launched Zcash in the first place, but that was kind of experimental and it wasn't very efficient. It was very hard to use. And now we've created this system that is very efficient, very easy to use. And what does that do? Well, that opens up all kinds of doors, right? So now we've been really focused on this core protocol, right? The science behind the scenes. That's good because it brings this tech into like a usable space, but we need to support the actual users now, right? So the protocol is solid. Now it's time to support users. So our CTO, Nathan Wilcox, announced about a month ago our next upgrade, which will be in October of 2019, and it's called Blossom.
Yeah.
And Blossom is almost exclusively going to be targeted at users. So it's going to involve things like making sure that custody of your funds is easier. We're going to so mining. So we'll talk about mining a little bit. So a mining change is a goal of this. We view miners as one of our biggest users, right? Miners, they obviously have to be really heavily involved in the ecosystem for it to be healthy.
Yeah.
So one of the things we want to do is we want to find a way to keep miners of all different levels involved in the actual process. So we're going to be looking at a mining change. We're going to be looking at making sure everybody moves over towards using the new technology. So the old technology was called Sprout. We're going to try and retire that, right, so that everybody moves over. And then we're also looking at a bunch of usability things like light wallets. So up until this point, to use shielded, what we call shielded, the private transactions, you pretty much had to run a full node on your machine, right? And a full node, it's not as bad with Zcash because it's only about maybe 20 gigabytes. We all know how these things grow. I mean, what's Bitcoin now? 120 gigabytes, and Ethereum is whatever. It's huge, over a terabyte, I think now. So, we're really looking at usability things. So light wallets, right, for shielded transactions, and layer 2. So layer 2 is going to be really big. We believe that layer 2 is going to be really important. And then we're also looking at Bolt, right, which is a layer 2 technology. Similar to Lightning Network on Bitcoin. Bolt is a backronym. We kind of made it up after the fact. And it's called Blind Off-Chain Lightweight Transactions is what it stands for. And the goal there is, Lightning is awesome, right? It's really cool. The goal that we're looking for in Bolt is for it to be fully private, both when the channel is created, in the channel, and when the channel is closed. Right, so it's an entirely private, payment channel, which would make payments almost instantaneous, fees almost zero, right? It gives you all the benefits of Lightning, but also the benefits of Zcash.
Okay, awesome. So it's going to be a user-focused 2019 for Zcash.
100%.
That's
absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah,
that's great. And how do you see what are the next steps for the blockchain ecosystem to develop in 2019 and 2020?
Yeah, personally, I kind of echo what we're doing with the project, which is, I think these protocols, mostly across the board, right? They're starting to really hit their stride, and they're starting to understand how to make sustainable improvements to their core protocol. That's great, right? That's a really good improvement, and that's a really good development. I think the next step now has to be bringing users into the fold, right? We can't be so focused just on command line tools and just like running full nodes. Yeah, that's like the core ethos of the power user, but the fact is, if we're trying to reach everyone, that's always going to be the 0.1% that wants to do that.
Yeah.
So I really do. I think the next steps are going to be massive improvements to usership, and understanding what those trade-offs are going to be, right? So we're very privacy focused. Obviously, there's not a lot of compromises you can make if you're looking for true privacy, because it's a hard thing to do. So finding, some of the right compromises and things like light wallets to really promote usership. Also, just making it easier, right? So I think part of the whole ecosystem, we just need to figure out ways to make how to use this stuff way easier. It shouldn't be so intimidating for people. They shouldn't have to write down all their key phrases and seeds, and it's, we need to find ways to really start thinking about it a little bit differently to make sure that we get to a point where I can, open a wallet for my mom and hand it to her and she can use it. And I think the market's starting to go there, actually. So I've been to a couple conferences in the last few weeks, and I would say over 50% of the talks at those conferences have been about usability. So it's been about wallets and about how exchanges are looking at things, right? And that's a little different than, say, a year ago or even 6 months ago, right? It was a lot of protocol stuff, which is cool. I think obviously they need to coexist, right? The protocols need to keep improving, usability needs to keep growing, but we really need to focus on usability, right? We need to get out and talk to real people, which I think is what you guys are doing.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it would be a pretty interesting 2019 and 2020 for user interface and usability, and get some real kick-ass interfaces for people to start using crypto on a large scale, and that would be really interesting for all of us that are in the crypto ecosystem.
I'd love to hear it. Like that's like the promise for me. That's what it's always been, right? That's what I've always been working for, to try and get it to that point.
Yeah.
Because when it's just in a full node and on a command line, it's a toy for me. Like when you get to the full point where everybody can use it, then suddenly the impact is starting to be felt and it's starting to be real. So.
Awesome. Well, that's been really, really interesting. Thanks, Brad, for coming to our offices in Buenos Aires and discuss this thing with us, and talking to our audience how ZCash works and what are the next plans for ZCash. It's one of the most interesting projects in the crypto ecosystem.
Thanks, Juan. I'm super excited to be down here. I'm really looking forward to seeing ZCash, move into Latin America, into Argentina. I think it could have a lot of positive impact. So, really excited to be working with you.
Awesome. You can get ZCash from our exchange in Argentina right now, and pretty soon in Brazil and Mexico also. And we have some great news from our wallet next year, so stay tuned, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. No se olviden de suscribirse a nuestro canal de YouTube y seguir las noticias del mundo cripto semana a semana. Thanks, Brad.
Thanks. Thank you.